I really want to motivate people to really discuss controversial topics. One topic is definitely that what you have chosen, decentralization and centralization. You already have touched it a couple of times during the last 3 days. And thank you very much, Guido, and thank you, Effie, for joining that. I'm not surprised, Effie, that you are very looking forward to be here in that, because you have some battle experience already. During the World Economic Forum, we were in a battle situation, and it's quite emotional, but also, of course, we have the rational side that is important. Let me just explain the rules. We're going to start with Effie, who is taking one standpoint, and she has 2 minutes to elaborate on that. Then it goes over to Guido, who has 2 minutes to respond, and then goes back 1 minute for Effie to respond on that, or to enrich their argumentation or argumentational basis, and then 1 minute. And then it's a 30-second tour, finally, where they can tell. And then we're gonna, in a voting mode, we're gonna ask ourselves which position, which standpoint has been better performed, or which one needs more support. Okay, and then it's up to you. And then after this stage, these panelists step back, and it's up to you to support either the left or the right side of the argumentation. Okay? Now let's give the floor to the panelists with Effie's first position. Okay. Awesome. You have the better microphone. No, it's equal. It's equal.
But before we start, if I would like to say to you, today you have a big challenge, because today I'm taking up the German rule of it. So I send the cavalry in this battle. So keep yourself warm for this discussion.
I ask for your sympathy before I start the battle, because I am a sea person. I was born on an island. I love the sea, and as you understood before from my talk, I'm all about the sea. So I have a little bit difficulty up in the mountains, but with your support, I think I'll do okay. So, decentralization. I mean, look, I'm a dreamer, but not to that extent. Come on, decentralization, what is that? It's philosophical crap, just to have drinks and talk about things that are not feasible and possible. Let me explain to you. Politics, let's take politics. It's all about power and control. We live in a society where the structure, the architecture of control is centralized completely. And let me explain to you, and I can't even imagine that you don't know why it is so. It is rightly so, and historically it has been, because after the times where we left the state of being nomads and hunters and gatherers, we started the urbanization process. We went into the phase of, agri-tech, having agriculture and so on, and all that, of course, needed the architecture of centralization. You can't control, people moving to cities, people moving into communities in numbers without centralization. It's very, very simple. I mean, now we have people dreaming, with a pizza or a glass of champagne. By the way, the pizza is a symbol of sort of, being low cost and so on, but typically it has a glass of champagne, and they're talking about, changing the power structure and so on, and the minute they actually get into something, they're also themselves looking to establish power, a brand, and so on.
It's up now to Guido.
Okay, if I judge if it's central or decentralized, we have to say take it in the majority. There's no pure form of central or decentral. But if I'm coming to the point, by nature, by the human being, decentralization is that where we all come from. And this is the base which have been ever here and what was the most peaceful and best setup we had. And I think as long as there are not some crappy people who always centralize, who take our power away, who do bullshit, who do wars, who do fights, who take our money and just leaving us in the situation we mentioned before that 90% of the people are not contributing on it, then we would have a very perfect life. Take the old history, take the Bushmen people in the Kalahari. Yeah? It's a perfect environment. They have a little bit of centralization. There's an expert in their community who's taking care of hunting. There's one for finding the water. And maybe there's a small chief of the village. But at least all the different tribes are decentralized and lived in a very peaceful environment until some crappy centralized people came up and wanted to integrate them in bigger unification and then destroyed the whole setup. If we don't want to go back to the Bushmen, we can just stay here. Go outside here, Switzerland, hundreds of years, mainly decentralized, mainly lucky people, one of the best ecosystem, one of the best political systems. And if you look to this oligarchical system in the US, if you're looking to Russia, if you're looking to Germany, my country where I came from, this is always centralization. What happened? All the centralization at least worked against the people. Or if I'm just going to an airport, if I'm just going to a shop, if I'm just calling one of our lovely hotlines where a centralized system established by some stupid consultants came up, I get the system doesn't allow to solve your problem. I think I see no clue why centralization is something good for our human beings and would convince.
1 minute for Effie.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about Guido, I'm going to attack him later. I just want to remind you that the best structures that we have, the values, family, church, schools, libraries, stock exchanges, everything that works for us, everything that we value, it's all centralized. We cannot get rid of them. I don't want to get rid of those values. What Guido is talking about is about breaking up the globalized world, stopping globalization, breaking up, and instead of having 170 countries in the whole planet, having 1,700 countries. Yes, we could make it then if we break up all the countries in very small societies, and then, yes, we can have decentralization in these small countries and nobody talks to each other and so on. How can we stop globalization? We want to be one world, all together, same for all the people. That can only be done with ordnung. Ordnung requires centralization. Forget about all these other ideas.
Sorry for that. The centralization is nothing else than imperialism and dictatorship. So you mentioned here some areas like the ecosystem environment. Look to this crappy system of climate change certificates and look back to what is really needed. Really, it's needed that we put our rubbish in a rubbish bin and that we save and not consuming so much plastic. But this can be done only if an individual is taken care of. Taking the family, maybe you have a different family. I invite you to my family. In my family, we have not a head there. We are a family out of 4 people, and my wife and myself and even my children have different roles. So we are a decentralized family, and we're quite happy with the structure. If you're now going to religion, I have to say the best religion I know on the planet is Buddhism. And Buddhism has a less factor of a god and a pope. But if you go beyond the best religion, beyond the Buddhism, is at least no religion or religion which is just executed in a small village. We had yesterday here this guy who was an Armenian guy or Aramean guys, which is a very small, tiny entity, and I've never heard about Armenian guys who have ever done anything bad. So according to my position, this decentralization has something to do with dictatorship and imperialism, and I say I'm against it.
Another 30 seconds for Effie.
Centralization has had the disadvantages only because it has been run by men. Give to the women centralization and then it will be perfect. There is no need for other change. Decentralization is another crappy idea that comes from men and technologists and I don't know what. It has no emotion in it. Centralization has emotion in it. We want to become one. We want to become closer to each other. Let women run centralized all the processes that we know, the churches, the schools, the libraries, the stock exchanges.
And another 30 seconds for Guido.
Look, first of all, why you are sure that I'm a man and not the third gender which is now established here? This, first of all, according to your attack, was a man. The second topic is, you still didn't solve my problem that I'm going in our world to different service points where I'm a human being sitting and then the system doesn't allow anything, and system means any centralized organization who is hindering that my problem is solved, where in a small community or in a former time, this human being on the other side just said, Guido, we find a solution. And this is also coming back to Switzerland. In Switzerland, you find it still. In the rest of the world, you don't find it.
Okay, I have two arguments against centralization. Every central organism destroys itself. Communism, China in the past, every big centralized organization destroys itself. And the second is, if women will rule the world, they will care their breed, which is decentralized. It will never be a centralized organization.
Okay, so I'm here to commit a serious sin. So I love the idea of decentralization. I did from the moment I came across it in this world. It's fantastic. It's a great ideal. It's never going to work. And I'll tell you why. The weak element, the weak link in the whole decentralization story is the human being. Okay? Because human beings, to live in a decentralized world, have to be responsible. Okay? They have to be knowledgeable to a certain extent. Okay? They have to be reasonable. And I know from a very close study of a certain person who's very close to me, myself, that human beings are not necessarily that. Human beings, or for example, I work in a decentralized organization.
Nine seconds.
Okay. And human beings also have a tendency to self-centralize. It's just part of our DNA.
Fertig.
Decentralization is the law of nature. All animals, all our organisms are decentrally organized. And that's how we breed. Darwin told us how it works. The more agile, the stronger they will survive. And that's why they are not organized centrally, and that's why decentralization in the long run will win.
I believe that centralization is at the core of our body. Imagine you had your body function decentralized with like 10 pieces of hearts scattered around your body. I don't think that would work. Unless you're some kind of amoeba or something. So I think centralization is very efficient. It's fast, cheap, and safe. Look at blockchains, right? Blockchains are very slow, inefficient, and costly. I think we should put Excel spreadsheets everywhere to store our value. Much more efficient. And that's why centralization is very important, and it will always win against decentralized systems. Thank you.
I believe I understand your position, Elfie. You are either an oligarch or married to one. Because only oligarchs, in this mindset, can accept the fact that 1% of the population is in possess of maybe 50% of the assets. And I understand this, your motivation and driver, I would like to have more, which in fact is, in a way, consistent with the selfishness of the human nature. But that is not the objective, and this will not make the world a better place. So decentralization is in fact maybe a difficult task. We have to educate the people, we have to create societies, we have to create engagement, and not, as mentioned before, by a speecher, accept the laziness of the people. we have to do it, and the world becomes a better world.
Normally I don't do that, but in this case I have to support. You are total believers. Believers, they are not fact-based. They are just have a vision, and is wishful thinking. I mean, if you look at what happened in the DAO and Ethereum Foundation, Vitalik Buterin. I mean, Vitalik supposed to be the central figure of decentralization, but as a matter of fact, he has become a guru. And the guru is even worse than any kind of, because they just believe what he says. It's just law. And this is just, as a matter of fact, it's a human nature. And maybe we have to overcome this, then maybe this could happen, that decentralization really works.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just move away from Ethereum and go to something that is more decentralized and gives a base layer for values like, for example, you know the answer, that is Bitcoin. But that's not the point that I wanted to make. I wanted to come up to say, your body is actually decentralized. That's the very best example. It's just a bunch of cells. They're not ruled by a central authority, and all of those cells exactly know what they do because of their DNA. It's implanted into them, and that works perfectly as in most of the cases. So there might be rogue cells, but they are just ruled out of the body eventually. My main argument for decentralization might be that centralized power often has been abused. If you look at history, and that should be the main reason to go more towards decentralization, to not create units of power that can be misused.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. Now it's up to the opponents again. You have 2 times 1 minute to make your final statements. 2 times 1 minute. And we're going to start with the person who was in the stronger position, because you then have the final word. Okay? Now we start with you. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute.
I would like to agree to the last one also. If my stomach is empty and would like to go for lunch, the stomach tells the brain that I have to go there and not the other way around. The second topic is the most crucial, even in the most crucial areas, decentralization is always in a better position. Take all our wars on the world. All decentralized rebel organizations have been much more power out related to the number of soldiers than any other imperialistic war system. I don't want to force them and protect them, and I would have no war on the area, but even there they use decentralized position. And now my last argument, which is the most important one, and it's beating all what you said up to now. It's if you take your example of your sharks and your piranhas, yeah? If it would be centralized, the sharks would eat the piranhas. But the decentralized situation is that the piranha is living in sweet water and the shark is living in salt water, so that the shark can live and the piranha can live, and both have their roles in a decentralized structure. So according to this, I hope that everybody agrees.
Yes, Effie is now done.
Okay.
How much do I have?
Yep. 1 minute.
I have been sitting here listening to all this crap talking about the human body and how it's a decentralized system, as if any of you live a conscious life, as if you're in touch with your body and nature. Yes, you sit in front of a computer all the time and a smartphone, and you're talking about your body. You're not in touch with your body, guys. If we lived in nature, if we were living a natural life, we go up there and all the time and so on, then fine. We can do decentralized. We can't do decentralized right here, because if we were decentralized, it wouldn't work. I'm telling you, if we were in touch with nature, then autonomy and decentralization would work, but we are not. So we need this universality to balance us in our unbalanced life. Somebody has to take care of us at the end of the day.
Yeah, okay, I fully agree to you that this is a kind of problem we have, and at least Wall Street is one of the problems where it comes from, and other institutions like our computer systems as well. I would say I would love much more, or like much more, to sit here in this ecosystem, going to this keyoscope, talking to the people on a decentralized level, instead of sitting on my computer and getting dictated what I have to do and what I have to fulfill in it. So, in my opinion, I not disagree that we have a kind of centralization, but I totally disagree that this is a goal we have to achieve. And I am here on blockchain, and I am working here because of one reason. I would like to change it in the world, and blockchain already shows with the technology, with the whole crowdfunding, with the whole setup, that we can do it. And so I think it's not an illusion, it's our future.
Look, blockchains themselves. You have a chain, you can't do it. Essentially, it's just changing the silos that we have into new types of silos. And let me be very, very frank and personal, Guido, with you. All the family problems that you have, you know, those relationship problems that you were telling me about, are you going to solve them with blockchain and decentralization? You're not going to solve them with blockchain and decentralization, and that's where it all starts. If the family can't work, can we bring down the rate of divorces? Can we make healthier children? Can we reduce the mental illnesses in our society? Can we solve our societal problems? No, we cannot. It's not decentralization that will solve this. We have centralization, we just have to change the people that are in power, I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Come on,